Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. I'm here with Frank, who
Hi.
was distracting me during my intro, trying to make me forget the words.
Did it work?
Obviously not. I'm a
Dang
pro
it,
at this
Holly.
now.
Gosh darn it.
All it took me was 5 weeks of messing up consecutively.
Well, sounds good. You're sounding good. You sound healthy today.
Oh my gosh, I feel so much better.
Good.
The only thing is like my sinuses are still draining, and you just have that filmy feeling on the back of your throat still.
Mm-hmm.
Where I feel like I have to clear my throat all the time.
Yeah.
But that's it. I'm feeling perfectly fine. Other than that.
Very
I even did
nice.
a workout yesterday. So
Oh my gosh. What?
I mean, I didn't finish it, but
I was doing it until I glistened once, and then I figured, oh, that's it. I'm out.
that's enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you? What's your week been like?
It's been busy, much more busy than I want this time of year. I mean, it's nice to have, but
Is it this time of year because of the heat?
it might be part of it because of the heat. We had a service today where someone had been found in the home after 4 days. And when I went into that, when I went in to pick him up, now mind you, his service was today. So they wanted to see him and stuff. And, man, it was just difficult.
So I have a
It's
question.
hard.
When someone has been found after 4 days, obviously there's some sort of decay there already, and like the smell is already there.
Yeah.
Especially with the heat. So when you embalm, does that take the smell away? Like, can it reverse that?
It will lessen it. It doesn't take it away because the decomposition is in the tissue. Mm-hmm. So it's not, once it's started, you can slow it, but you can't
reverse it.
You can't arrest it completely.
But that funeral service was done today. So are they being sent off for cremation, or are they out of your facility?
Not out of the facility. They won't be until probably the first of next week.
Okay. But nice to have it done.
Yep.
Even if they did show up 2 hours late.
Oh, man.
I can't believe
I'll tell you, that just makes me angry. I was on my way out that door. I was on the phone with my twin brother, and I was on my way out the door as soon as I was done with him.
Yeah, but they showed up right in the nick of time. When you get that, because I mean, I've heard multiple stories of families coming in hours late to a funeral service. Was this his funeral service, or was it like the family wanted to see him?
Both. It was a family ID, but then they turned it into a service where family members stood up and said things about him, and everyone laughed and joked and
right. And you're saying, "Get out of my building."
Kind of. He was a avid golfer apparently, and the only thing that came before his golf was his family. Otherwise, if he wasn't with family, he was trying to be on the golf course all the time.
Oh.
So
that's something.
It's something.
It's something. You can relate.
Yes, I can.
Being mini golf king.
And there it is. Thank you for not forgetting that.
How could we forget?
Don't forget. Ever forget. Do not forget.
I even changed your contact in my phone.
To Golf King?
Golf King. In parentheses, mini.
That wasn't my stature, right? The mini isn't my stature, is it?
I'm going to let you decide. Think what you want.
All right, fine. Thank you.
Great.
So I have talked to a number of people. I think we're getting I know we're getting a following, and I know we kid all the coffiners about the numbers and stuff, but I'm getting notices saying they were a little concerned of the late drop of last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, are you going to talk to him back? Say, are you guys really? I mean,
Are
no,
you actually
we wait for that thing to drop in the mornings. And
seriously?
so yes, and so apparently there's a.
Because it usually drops at midnight, so they're waiting up
I
pretty
know,
late.
but what I'm saying is that they're if it's not there in the morning, they get concerned.
Oh, they
So
check.
when they're up and about ready to go, they expect Monday morning to just click it and go. And so I just
Okay.
okay. Anyway, so that's a good sign. That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
that is a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of nice. It's
It
nice
is.
to know that people actually care about that. And sorry, that was our bad. Being so sick last
Yeah.
week, we just got to editing it late. Um, but I don't know what's something. No, not yet.
Not yet.
I'm not
What?
done. I want
Oh,
something fun from your week
fun.
or funny.
Mm.
And as you're thinking about that, I'll explain to our coffiners. Around our dinner table growing up, we used to do a game called High Low Funny.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you tell the highlight of your day, the low light of your day, and then something funny that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found that being this old 20, am I 25 or 26? I think I'm 25
Yeah, I think so too.
year old. My brain doesn't work as well. So I
What?
choose one.
Oh,
I choose either high, low, or funny, and I can usually remember one of those things from the week. So we know it was busy, but what was something that
funny.
stood out? Yeah, funny.
So probably the funniest thing that I can think of right now, and it has to do with Shorty, our dog,
Oh, Shorty.
is that we always comment on how he's losing his eyesight. So as soon as I walk in, I'll say, "Hey, Shorts," and his tail will start to wag, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
either grab something to eat and then sit on the couch, and he just un, unwaveringly, he'll come into the room and just lay right at my toes.
Oh,
And so he's either sitting on my feet, resting to where his back is on my toes, or so close that he just looks up at me and thinks, "Is he about to touch me?"
what's
But
going on here?
it never fails. He's been doing that a lot lately,
Oh,
and I don't know if he's just feeling like because everybody goes all day and then finally someone's home and
yeah.
talk to me. So
And I can't see you, but I'm going to sit on your toes so you can't leave again.
that's right. Yeah, I'm here.
It's really tender if you think about it.
Are your feet warm? Because I
I
can
got
warm
it.
them.
I got it. Don't worry about it.
I
Please
can
don't
warm.
forget about me.
I can warm them up. Mm-hmm.
I'm helpful, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cute. Good old Shorty. Well, then, with that, we'll go ahead and let's be frank.
Hold on. No, you said you're
What? No, no,
trying to
no, no.
do one. So what is
What do
the
you mean?
one you worked on today? The high, low, or the funny?
Oh, gosh. No, I was doing that for you.
Oh, oh, that's why you limited it to one. You choose dad, but I want
That's
the funny.
right.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, if I know I'm going to have to do that now, I'm gonna have to
Jeez,
journal
yeah.
journal everything now.
I
Great.
know. I'm going to have to remember something too.
All right, go ahead.
Let's be frank.
Thanks, Hall. So before, when you asked me about what's been going on, there was a gentleman in my life that passed away this last week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want to take a minute and just offer my heartfelt condolences and sincere thanks to the family. And I do want them to know of one story in particular that I don't think anyone knows that that individual did for me.
Oh, how fun.
And so not a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago, I was really going through some hard times and with the business and just personal items and things. And out of the blue comes a call from this man. And family, you'll know who I'm talking about. But his comment, and this is all I'm going to say. He said, "Is this Frank?" And I said, "Yeah, this is Frank." And he goes, "Hey, this is so and so." And I said, "Oh yeah, I recognize your voice. How are you doing?" He said, "Good, better than you right now, I would guess." And I said, yeah, it's been kind of hard for me right now. And he goes, there's one thing I want you to do, and I want you to remember. And I'm just going to say this, Frank, and I'm just saying it, and please know it's heartfelt. He said, you are made to persist.
Hmm.
And I thought that was the end of it. But then he said, that's how we find out who we are. And I thought
Wow.
to myself, well, that was one of the nicest things. And, the relationship had been strained a little bit because of some of the things that occurred in my own life and that affected his family as well. But when he said that, he said, that's all I want you to know. He said, you keep persisting and you'll find out exactly who you are.
Hmm.
And I just thought to myself, well, that is a great sense of advice. So, family, if you hear this, I want you to know that that is something that he did. And he just said, no one needs to know about this conversation. Just want you to know that I was thinking of you after your brother had mentioned some things to me. And just wanted to make sure that you were okay and that you knew that this is how I feel about what's going on in your life right now. And I said, oh, okay, great. And then there's one other that I want to share. And this is, and I don't know why, but they've just come to my mind. And I thought maybe this would be the good platform to do it. But 2, 3, 4 years ago today, a gentleman who was a church or street chaplain, like a minister, something like that, was always carrying a cross and one of these huge crosses. And he always made me smile when I went by him on the street, on the corner. And I know the street corner where he's at and where he would always be yelling at the top of his lungs, the good news of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was thinking about that and as I was smiling, I just thought to myself, those who bring sunshine can't help but receive the sunshine they deliver. And I was just thinking about him for some reason today. And for the life of me, I don't know why, but it was exactly today, 4 years ago, that he passed away or was found deceased on the street.
Oh, he
And,
died on the street.
and,
Wow.
so we didn't do the services or anything like that, but I did attend his service. And I just, every time I think about him, I just happened to drive by it on the way home from work today. And I just thought, oh my gosh, today's his anniversary of death.
Wow.
And then so I just started to smile and I just thought, well, because of the sunshine that he was professing to others as they were passing by and driving around and everything like that, then obviously I would think that he also received the same amount of sunshine that he was trying to deliver. Okay, now let's get to the story.
Hold on 1 second. Was this the same street corner friend that you had that said, it's okay, it's all
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Is it?
No,
Oh, well,
no.
you've got to tell.
Wouldn't that be a story
That would be
if that
amazing.
was the same story?
Yeah.
So, okay, now that Holly's alluded to it, there was one time when I was just down and out and I was so not distraught. I was just wondering about how things would work out and what we needed to do to change things. And I'm in this mode of thinking. It had to be the cooler months because my windows were down. And I had stopped at an intersection, and to the right of me pulls up this truck. And we're both looking ahead at the intersection. I just casually looked over at him, and the moment I did, he looked at me. And he said, it's all right. It's okay. Jesus told me so. And so I just thought to myself,
Oh my
now
God.
either he does that to every car that stopped,
Right.
or he was really just told that, everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay.
It's all right.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
okay. Jesus told me so.
Jesus told me so.
Yeah.
Oh,
So anyway,
how sweet.
it was sweet, actually. Now that you brought that back up, I had
Of
forgotten all
course.
about that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, what happens with cremation in regards to when a cremation goes awry. There's usually, immediately because you get smoke coming off the stack,
Mm-hmm.
and they call that a head. And I was in the crematory, or at least in the mortuary at one a particular moment when all of a sudden I hear a rattle on the door, and I look out there, and it's fire department's what's going on. And I wasn't in charge of the cremation at the time, but he just, I mean, he was getting ready to bust the glass. And I just,
Oh,
what are you breaking the glass for? And so he didn't, of course. We got there in time, and he says, you got a fire going on in the backside of your building. We need to get into it to put it out. And I said, oh, no, it's probably just a cremation. And so we went down because the retort where it was located was down in the lower area. And so when we opened the door, the smoke just billowed out of that room. And I go, well, that's not good because it should never be smoky. It should all just be going up the flue, up the stack. And so they, of course, went in with hoses ablaze and started trying to find
hoses ablaze. Their hoses were on fire.
Yeah, them too. Yeah.
Oh,
and so they were just they were trying to find out where the cause was coming from, but they found, one of those little leaks in the back. Not the gas, Holly. It was just the stack had a little hole in it, so it was pushing smoke out of the stack as well.
Yeah,
not the one that exploded later. But remember that story? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, everything seemed to be fine. We opened the windows down there. We're allowed to let the smoke pour in and out. We adjusted the machine so it wouldn't smoke anymore. But the reason I'm saying that is because we were kept behind on our schedule for leaving. We were getting ready to leave because of the fire department. Well, I went back up to the office to try and close the office so I could go home, when I had started on the back end of the building and started working my way to the door that I had just come through with letting the fire department come in, and there stood a young lady. And I looked at her and I said, oh, hi, can I help you? And I didn't really want to help her, truth be known, because here it was already 6 o'clock, 6:15, and she said, I'm glad you're open. I have a request for you. I said, oh, great. What can I help you with? And she said, well, I've just been notified that my husband was found. And I said, found? What do you mean found? And she goes, well, 6 years ago, and she had a little girl with her. She said, 6 years ago, my husband left for work and never came home. Oh my God. I said, oh, that's kind of sad. And she said, sad. It's made my world topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
I couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. My little girl here that's right now with me now, she's 7. She was 1 when he walked out the door and didn't come back. But I've just been notified from the medical examiner that they think they have found my husband's skeletal remains. And I said, oh, sorry. And she goes, I just need a place that can, oh, well, can I help you with, are you wanting to do cremation, or will this be a, no, I'm kidding you. So at that point, it obviously is going to be cremation because all you're really dealing with is the skeletal remains, right? So I said, so let's go ahead and just sit down and get some information if that's okay. You're here, so we might as well just do it. And she said, well, I don't really have a lot of time. And I remember that conversation, and then she spent the next 10 minutes telling me why she didn't have a lot of time. One of those individuals.
One of those, yeah.
And so I said, okay, so in the interim, while she was talking to me about her husband, I was jotting down some notes so that I didn't have to ask the questions again because she was volunteering information that was needed for the death certificate. So finally the conversation ended, and I said, so what happened to your husband? What is it that actually took place? Do you know any of the detail yet? And she goes, no, I was just notified, but I will tomorrow. And I said, well, when you come back in tomorrow, because I had to set up a second appointment for her to come back for the actual signing of the documentation. Where I worked, I didn't have access to it until 8 o'clock the next morning. That's the way our company worked.
Yeah.
So I took that information and had to set up another appointment for her to come back so that she could go ahead and sign the necessary documents, make sure that she's okay with contracts, stuff like that. So set the appointment for 10 o'clock the following day. 10 o'clock rolls around. And in she walked. She's by herself this time. Mm-hmm. Not a little girl. And I said, hi, come on in. And she goes, how long will we be today? And I said, as long as you want to be. I said, I have everything ready. All I need are signatures. And she goes, well, Frank, you asked me yesterday about what transpired with my husband and what if I knew of anything that had happened to him, or what happened to him. And I said, yeah, do you? And she said, yeah, I just got some information. And I said, well, what's the information, if you don't mind sharing?
Mm-hmm.
And she got very angry, and she said, "I want you to know that when my husband left that one morning, he was a security guard, and when he left that morning to go do his job, that in the course of that day, the other security guard that he was working with called him on his radio and asked him to go out to a certain site within the area in which they were securing to help him with some job, some I don't know what it was, but she said he got into the he didn't have a car, so he just walked his way out to that little spot where they were supposed to be meeting and where he needed the help. At that point, that security guard shot my husband, and I said, "What?"
What?
She said, "Yeah, he shot my husband and then put him in a shallow grave. They would never have found that my husband was buried there if they hadn't done an excavation for a new building that they were getting ready to build."
Oh my
And I
God.
said, "Oh my word!" And she said, and then his counterpart just went back to work as though nothing had ever happened. They asked him if they'd seen him, and it's one of those. So I said, "What about his car?" And she said, "I took him to work." So he
Oh,
didn't have a car that, there was no indication that he had even been there. The security guard said no, he never even showed up for his
and there were
position.
no cameras.
Yeah, of course
He
not. Why
must
would?
not have clocked in. It was probably salaried.
And even if it was clocked in, I think this guy would have manipulated the clock somehow.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm talking to her, and then she gets a little more indignant and almost to where her voice is raising. And she said, "And do you know that my husband was having an affair?" And I said, "What? You found all this out from last night?" She said, "Oh, no, they've been working on this case since he's been missing. And they're
How
just
did they
now
tell
telling
her?
me." Yeah. And she says, "And so now he's had an affair. And do you know who he was having an affair with?"
That guy's wife.
That guy's wife. And he found out about it and took it upon himself to kill him.
Oh my God.
So, anyway, that was the juxtaposed of the story. And then I get a call from the medical examiner's office telling me that this individual is ready to be released. And I said, "Okay." And at this point, I just said, "What size cadaver pouch do I need?" And she said, "Bring a small one." And so I went down there, and the small one is still, I would guess, probably 6 foot, 6'1" in length, and maybe 18 inches wide, maybe 10 inches wide. That's what
Yeah.
causes them to look thin. They're thin but long.
Mm-hmm.
And so all they brought out to me was a right pelvic girdle and a left femur bone.
That's all they had?
That's all they had.
And they were able to match it?
They were able to get DNA from it. And so they gave me the bones, and I said, "Is this it?" And they said, "Yes, this is it." And so I went and took the bones, and I carried them back to the mortuary and set them in the cooler. And I waited and I waited, and I called this lady and I told her, "Well, I have what's left of your husband in my care. And do you have any requests? Shall I just go ahead with the cremation?" She said, "Yeah, go ahead and cremate him." So we cremated him. The next day we cremated him, and took all of, I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe
Yeah,
40
it's
minutes,
not a
40
lot
minutes,
there.
40 minutes. All you're really doing is redrying the bone
Right.
so it's brittle and breakable. And I called her and told her that the cremated remains were ready to be picked up. She says, "Okay." So she waited until the next day to come in. And when she came in, she goes, "Hi, Frank, I'm here to talk to you about my ex-husband's cremated remains." And at this point, she's calling him ex-husband because she
I'm
just
not
went on ahead.
claiming him. He had an affair.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Especially not while I was married to him. And so she said, "So where are his cremated remains?" And I brought out a small little box, plastic. I said, "These are what's left of his cremated remains." And she goes, "Okay, where do I sign?" Because she needed to sign to actually bring the
Yeah.
cremated remains into her care. And then she said something that has always stuck with me. She said, "Now, can I ask you to just go ahead and place him and drop him in the toilet and flush him?"
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "You can't pay me, and I won't do it. But you are welcome to take the cremated remains, and whatever you choose to do
Do
at that
whatever
point
you want.
is up to you. I don't know that I would broadcast it."
Oh my
And
gosh.
and then she goes, Well, if I don't take them with me, then what are you going to do with them? I said, we'll wait 90 days and then scatter them.
Scatter them.
Where would you scatter them? I said, probably in a local flower bed, that's owned by the cemetery or
Somewhere that's nice.
Mm-hmm. And she goes, oh, well, that's way too nice. Give me the, and she called him the bastard. Give me the bee and I'll take care of it myself. And she's indignant with me. And I said, hold it. Wait. Are you mad at me? And she, because that's the way I was feeling. And she goes,
right.
Well, I don't know who to be mad at anymore. And I said, well, did they catch the guy that shot your husband? Oh, yeah, they've got him. They'll probably put him in jail for life. But it still doesn't make, or how did she say it? It still doesn't change the fact that I'm angry at him for having this affair, putting himself into a position where he's going to get shot and killed by a jealous husband.
Right.
And so, and she said, and then I've talked to her wife or his wife, and I go, what? And she said, yeah, and she's totally
all in 24 hours.
No. In the past, she had talked to her.
Oh,
so she knew her. She knew who she was, and she goes, and then to find out I'm having a test done so I can see if the child she just had is, or not just had, but 5-6 years ago was his.
Oh my gosh.
And so she said, that'll be interesting to find out, don't you think? And I looked at her and I said, maybe you're going a little too deep. Maybe since you didn't really know that he maybe has a child, why would you put yourself through that? Well, I need to know. Okay. And some people do. They just need to know. So I didn't really think much more about it until, and I will say this, and I don't mean to be discouraging to anyone, but as she was leaving the parking lot, she opened the urn and she opened the bag and she started to dump the cremated remains in the parking lot.
Oh.
And then she turned around and she ran over the cremated remains, turned around and
she ran them over?
Rolled over them 4 different times. And I thought that was it. And I just I didn't smile or anything. I just shook my head and I thought, there's some anger that's going on with the individual where she's actually dropping his cremated remains in the parking lot and then feeling the need to drive over the cremated remains over and over and over. And it had to have been, I'll bet if it wasn't 6 times, it might have been 10. So
oh my gosh.
She just, and over and over and over. And then she rolled down her window and as she was finally pulling out of the parking lot, flipped the bird. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, wow. Well, we'll see you later. And I just mentioned her.
Bye.
In my mind, I was thinking, okay, see you. And as she left, I just thought, well, that's the end of that. Well, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks later, she comes in, doesn't say a word, and puts a note on my desk and leaves.
Were you there? You saw her?
I was there. I saw her. I said, hey, how are you doing? And she just walked right past me, put a note on my desk and left. And I opened the envelope, and in the envelope there was a card and it said, thanks for your help. Just so you know, I have, or my husband has another child. And for this reason, I do not care to see anyone. We are leaving the state, and I'm just trying to break all avenues or all connections that I have with the state at this moment. And I just thought, oh, wow, I wish she would have just said something. But instead, she felt that the easiest thing to do would be just to drop that note on my desk explaining to me that she did find out that he did father that baby. And I don't know how they would have found out from the bone DNA, because I think it would be a little harder.
Yeah,
because they would have had to have
they would have had to done like DNA test.
Okay, so here's what I found out.
Oh, okay.
They, when she was having the affair, he would use a certain comb or brush in her home, and she kept the brush, and no one else used it except for him.
Oh my gosh!
So they had hair that they used to go ahead, and I don't know if they used that to find out the genetic background of the child or not, but apparently it was enough to where even after years, it was enough. And she saved the brush because her husband came home and said, oh my gosh, I can't believe that what's his name didn't show up for work.
So her husband didn't even tell her? No,
she had her suspicions.
I'm sure.
Because of the way he was acting, that he may have found out about it and whatever. But anyway, so now she has the one child, not from him, not from her husband, but from her lover. They only had the one child, and
Hmm.
it wasn't even his. And I think that that's one of the reasons why he killed him.
And now
So
he's dead, and now her
yeah,
husband
he's
is
in
in prison
prison.
for life.
Probably. I don't remember following it. I try to stay out of stories like that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me
Wow.
that the individual would actually be gone for 6 years, be found. Just think if they hadn't tried to build a new building in
I know. He never
that
would have been
area,
found.
never would have been found. And I think that's what that one guy was counting on. He probably thought he got away with it. So
Probably.
anyway, that's today's story. And I tell that story only because I want people to understand and realize that there's real anger that goes on with death. And there's real anger that goes on with what could be happening with the consequences of choices that we make. And
Right.
so the one thing that I took away from this particular instance is the fact that blindsided, family's blindsided. Number one, that he has passed away or that he has been found, and so now at least that door's been closed. You don't know that you keep thinking, well, maybe he's just run off,
Right.
trying to live a new life. I just had a baby.
Mm.
I just had a baby. Maybe he didn't feel that he could handle the pressure anymore, and so he just decides to go off. But now she knows for sure that he has passed away. And then they, due to the consequences of the choices that he had made, now understands and realizes why he was in fact murdered.
Yeah.
And when in essence, when she first heard that they suspected foul play, there opens another door. Well, why would someone kill my husband?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me and I'm a huge advocate of choices and consequence. And I love John, by the way, for those of you that know John, by the way, he always has, in my mind, I got a perfect visual where you pick up a stick and you can paint a black line in the middle of the stick, but on one side you have to put choices, the other side you put consequences. And no matter what you do to that stick, it still remains strong and firm because
Mm-hmm.
the choice that you've made is connected to that consequence. And so I always think about that now and especially when I think about this story, I think about his analogy or his symbolism of that stick being picked up and how rigid it is, and you aren't going to escape the consequence of the choice you've made. You've made the choice. Now the consequence, regardless of when it happens, is going to follow.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's today's story, Holly. Any questions on that one?
I don't know that I have questions. I think that it's just really interesting, and I'm thinking in my mind as you're telling this, of you're kind of paying your respects to our family friend who just recently passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and how much now his words to you mean,
Mm-hmm.
how much more they mean now that he's gone, and how much more damage was done now that her husband is dead and she's finding out all of these things about him,
Mm-hmm.
where they could have had a perfectly happy marriage,
Could have.
but all of it is tainted now. And thinking about your analogy of the consequences and actions
Mm-hmm.
and being inseparable, there are some things that are inseparable, but I think a lot of the times we don't give people the credit that they deserve. Where if this man would have just, I don't know, told his wife that he was having an affair or maybe talked to her about it,
Mm-hmm.
you can't rule out that it might end poorly, but you can determine, like, I am now taking an action
Mm-hmm.
not to mitigate the consequences, but to
But to
try and
face them
own
head
up
on.
and
Yeah.
face them
Mm-hmm.
and allow her an opportunity to face them, because it's her right to know.
That's right.
And it's also her right to choose to forgive him. And maybe they could have made it work,
Yeah.
and she wouldn't have been flushing his remains.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a very interesting story, and really interesting that you started with two separate in memoriams, thinking
Yeah.
about people that matter to you that have passed away now.
Well, I think one because of the quote that he gave me, and how important it was to persist so that you know exactly who
Mhm.
you are, what you're made of. And then the second one with that sunshine, every time I'd see him preach on the corner, he'd always, and I had met him, and so every time I would go by the corner, he'd look at me and go, "Hey, Frank,
Frank!
yeah, Christ lives." Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. So, but yeah, totally. And then when I saw the cops in that area, I just knew something had happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but I just, yeah, there's the persistence. And if you're persistent in delivering sunshine, you're going to get sunshine back. If you're persistent in delivering probably bad news or different messages of negativity, you're going to get negativity back. So it's
Rain
important that you
clouds.
just understand, yeah, which I hope we get tonight, by the way. But but it's, yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that too. But I didn't really mean to do that, but it is, now that you say it, it was probably good to mention the first two, and
Why?
then just this one here, just because of just the way that all came together, and how happy, kind of happy that they, at least she could close the door, and then how
She
angry she
gets
became,
closure. Yeah.
and then how angry she became once another door opened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's too bad. Anyway,
Why do you think final words or actions hold so much more weight after someone has died?
because there's no way of correcting it. Because once you say something, like, say for instance, I hear this all the time across an arrangement table. Um, the last comments, for instance, if it was a daughter who did not get along with her father, and in their last conversation said something like, "I hope to never see you again,"
Mm.
and then they pass away,
And then she never saw him again.
and then she would never see him again. But you see, now
That
I
choice is
think
taken away now.
correct. The regret comes in the inability to correct what was either said or done.
I think that people, yeah, I think that people really put themselves in corners a lot of the times where because X, then Y, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's not as clear as that. It's not always because this person did this, I'm never talking to them again, or I can never
Mm-hmm.
forgive them. You can.
I
You
know.
can.
Yeah, you can.
And just think of how much more empowering it is to maybe move on past that for that person, but also for you, because then you're not holding on to that. I mean, like this woman is saying, I don't even know who to be mad at anymore, but I
Yeah.
have all of this anger now.
Mm-hmm. When you put it that way, the I think the underlying choice is that for you to remain healthy, it's best just to let it go. To just say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I forgive them for what they did. They may have passed away or whatever the case might be, but and I know they probably didn't mean what they told me the last time I saw them.
Right.
But however, I'm going to go ahead and just say I forgive you, and just vocalize it out loud. Say I forgive you, and then just let it go. Just
Mm-hmm.
continue on with life. You'll feel much better.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think we all find ourselves in the husband's position at some
Mm,
point, not always cheating on our spouse, but doing something that we regret and
mm-hmm.
maybe trying to hide that or trying to cover up the consequence portion of that. But it would have been much more freeing for him if he owned up to it, even if
Oh,
that ended in a divorce,
yeah, most
because
definitely. Yeah.
it takes a toll carrying a weight
Mm-hmm.
like that. And it's just mental strain that you don't need to carry on. And especially if you're trying to improve and trying to be
Yeah.
better, don't sell the people in your life short.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to help you through it.
Yeah. Well, even if it ended in divorce, I think that would be the consequence. But the consequence the action of that consequence would be to try and rebuild that relationship. They had a child together.
Right,
So
right.
even if they divorce, there's still a father in someone's life. There's still an ex-husband that could help her if she needed the help. It
Mhm.
didn't have to, I just think when people take it upon themselves to make those actions, I think that's why murder is so bad, because you've stopped the progression of somebody else. And
Yeah.
so you've actually halted their ability to ask forgiveness, to make a change, to do something different. And so, sorry, that's a religious aspect of murder. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you're bringing up.
Yeah, I just think I was thinking about this today. Just
Really?
how yeah, that's right. I was.
You
No,
can,
just how
oh my gosh, you can take the girl out of the death family, but you can't take the
you
death out of the
can't
girl.
take the death family out of the girl. Especially when she talks about it every week with her dad.
Oh, boy.
No,
Sorry
not
about
about
that.
murder. I wasn't thinking about murder. Well, I guess I kind of was. I was thinking about how there's just so much bad, it feels like, in the world right now, and so much
Mm.
hurt. And I know it's because we have access to too much information, and I
Yep.
don't think humans were ever supposed to have access to this much information at their fingertips ever. I just don't. But sometimes the bad feels a lot bigger or more uncontrollable than the good. But I was just thinking about it. And yes, to bring the religious aspect back in it, I was sitting in church and I was thinking about it. And I was just looking around at all of these good people that are trying to do their best and that are fallible, that still make mistakes, but they're trying to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think a lot of the times we almost ask for the rain clouds to come to us because we're giving the attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we are more like your soapbox friend, if we look through the rain clouds to the sun above them and like give more heat and more attention to the sun
Mm-hmm.
and sunshine than the rain that's coming down at that moment, the rain isn't going to matter as much.
No. As a matter of fact, you'd appreciate it more.
Yeah, you would.
Mm-hmm.
Because you appreciate that the sun is there to dry the rain.
Right.
And that it's not for a forever thing.
Yep.
But the sun never fails to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know, I think we need to give more attention to sunshine in our lives, but also we need to give more opportunity to the people around us to act well.
Mm-hmm.
And to not assume the worst in people or not assume what our fears are telling us how they're going to react to things. Because if you just give people more credit, and I know that we're on a religious aspect kind of tantrum, I am right now, but someone said in our service today that God's love cannot change for you. Like, no matter what bad you do, God's not going to love you less. And
Right.
whatever good you do, God's not going to love you more.
It's unconditional.
It's constant. It's
unconditional. It's a level of love that, yep,
and
we'll
I
never
think
attain as mortals here.
No, we won't. No. And I think the closest that we come to experiencing that, other than just your personal relationship with God, is the love through families and through building families. And especially if you've got something going on in your life, like, let your family in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be able to help you with it, and they're going to want to help you with it, and they're going to love you no matter what. Because that's
very
just
important. Yeah.
I know a lot of people aren't as lucky to have that, but you also have your chosen family of your friends, the people that you're close to, your spouse. And I don't know, just give the people in your life more credit.
All kind of comes down to pride, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does. We just need to get over ourselves, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That was a really long tangent that I just went on. What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, Holly, hold it. Were you talking?
I kind of just blocked you out.
No, I think that everything you just said is very important for people to know and understand and realize that. And I think the most important thing for any coffiner, anybody that happens to listen to this podcast or any of these episodes, is that we have to be resilient enough to take criticism. You have to be resilient enough to receive criticism. And you have to be resilient enough to actually know the difference between the two. And where it's actually coming from, and actually the meaning or the reason for the criticism. Because sometimes criticism is warranted. And sometimes it might be just because the person is angered or has a little bit of ire and the day's not going the way they thought. And so you become the punching bag. So it's just, I think and I always go back to this this terminology of blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape.
That's funny.
Yeah, so that's the key right there. Be flexible.
Yeah, be
Understanding
flexible.
and lovable.
Yeah,
Or
I
loving.
think
Or loving.
and loving both.
Mm-hmm.
But I think going off of that, maybe let's just end with be flexible, and also our good friends counsel, you were built to persist.
Yeah.
So no matter
Yes.
what you're going through, just remember you were built for this.
Yeah. This one piece of advice, you were built to persist, Frank. And so that's going to show you the type of man you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you've seen it. You've seen the struggles that we've had in our business, in our family.
Right.
Anyway.
But look at us. We've persisted.
I've got the cuts and scars to prove it, Holly. Yeah. Have you seen my back lately? No.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. All right. Whatever. All right.
Yes, but I think we'll
I just want people to know that I just truly do love this podcast and doing these episodes. And this truly is good for me in a way of being able to recount things that have happened in my life, to actually recount the stories, the feelings I felt at the time, the lessons I've learned as the experience was given, and how important that is. And that's made me who I am today. So,
yeah, I think no matter who you are, it's really good to reflect on your life and what's made you who you are.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But yeah, I'm the same way. I love our little community that comes together to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so thankful for each one of us. And it just truly just makes my day.
Yeah.
When we get a little comment or a little email with your reactions or, whatever it is. So keep sending them. We love them.
Yeah. Please keep sending in the stories.
And the stories that we tell too, they aren't nearly as important without you.
That's correct. Hopefully you take something from every single story we tell. That's
something
the goal.
Good, I hope.
Yeah, hope something good. Yeah. And hopefully no one follows you home at night.
Yikes.
Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
But keep sending them to us. Send them in at letsbefrank@coffintalkin.com, on Instagram at Coffin Talkin, or on YouTube at Coffin Talkin Podcast. And leave us a rating, leave us a review. That really helps us, and we appreciate it. But we will talk at you next week.
Bye, Coffiners.
Bye.
Have a good week.